Dr. Scott,
Yes, Dr.
when
Mike.
when I was a kid, I was the kid who always had joke books. And I would bring a joke to school to tell my kindergarten or first grade teacher those jokes every day. And, there weren't a lot of them, so I'm sure they got repeated sometimes. But years later, after I had started in stand-up comedy, my dad was at a high school reunion of his, and my first grade teacher happened to be one of his high school classmates. And he said, well, you'll never believe, Mike has moved to Los Angeles and he is doing stand-up comedy in LA right now. And everybody said, I can't, but is he still practicing? Oh, and he's a vet and now he's doing stand-up. And Mrs. Yates said, that does not surprise me one bit.
Now, were you the class clown too?
I was not really the class clown, but I always told jokes and would tell people, like try to get people to laugh. So that was the beginning of my foray into comedy. Welcome to the Vets Unleashed,
where we gather animal professionals and animal enthusiasts to discuss the most pressing, silly, and interesting topics in the animal kingdom. I'm Dr. Scott.
And I'm Dr. Mike. Yeah, today we're going to talk about the use of humor in the exam room and beyond, and in veterinary medicine in general. And, we're doing this because I never thought this would happen. I never thought this would be me, that I would be giving, race-approved continuing education talks to other veterinarians, teaching them about the use of humor in a clinical setting.
And I actually sat through 5 hours of your lectures.
Bless you.
It was very well received. You gave them last year at the Hawaii VMA. And to a very receptive audience that had fun and I think learned a lot. So I'm sure our listeners will be interested in hearing what you have to share today.
And I think, for me, it started out like, I always loved telling jokes, as I said, and I loved humor, and I was certainly a comedy nerd, but I never thought I would be doing stand-up comedy until I moved to LA. And somebody just said to me, like, hey, you're pretty funny. You should do stand-up. And I thought, oh my God, no way. I knew there was a vast gulf between being funny conversationally or being funny at a cocktail party and standing up on a stage.
And the art of stand-up.
Absolutely. So I took a workshop in LA from the great Bobby Oliver at the Dow Comedy Institute. And at the end of our 6 or 8 weeks, we had to stand up on stage in front of, 200, 250 people at the Ice House, the world famous Ice House in Pasadena, California, and tell jokes. And it was terrifying. But she definitely helped us make our jokes the best they could be and got a lot of laughs. And I never looked back. It was just, I was hooked. I was hooked from then on.
And before we get into how you've brought that to veterinary medicine, you're killing me here because I have this delicious drink in front of me. I'm like, let's not wait until 15 minutes into our recording to introduce the drink. So what is this delicious thing?
Let me tell you the story here. Right?
Oh no.
So I'm telling the story. So usually one of us does quite a bit of research into finding the just exactly right cocktail and the right pun for it and something that will taste good. And this time I thought, well, you know what? I really want to do the Adios, the Mother AMF.
Effer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I know I could say it. It's just not me. Anyway, and I wanted to do that because another one of my comedy mentors, Sally Mullins, used to drink those on stage every night. So that first 5 years that I was getting up on stage all the time, Sally always had an AMF in her hand and would make a joke about it. So, but of course we didn't have everything. So Scott, you came up with this drink. This is a Scott special, and I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, it's blue curacao, which is also in an AMF, correct?
It is. Yep.
Yeah, and Malibu rum, dark rum, and simple syrup and some orange juice.
Yeah. Here we go.
What are we calling it?
I
the
don't
Virtuous Humor.
The Virtuous Humor.
Because we did an internet search. This is not a legitimate
we couldn't
cocktail
find it.
recipe that we could find on our searches. So this is a Vets Unleashed original.
Yeah, Virtuous Humor. Cheers.
Enjoy your Virtuous Humor.
Oh my God. That is so good.
It's very coconutty. Less orangey than I would have thought with the orange juice and the coconut trumps the orange, but it's a nice balance, isn't it?
Hold on. I need to take another drink of this.
Yeah. And the dark rum is good.
Mm-hmm. The dark rum gives it just that little punch.
Yeah.
To make it a cocktail. Scott, this is really good.
I think the only thing I might change a little before, before we ultimately publish our cocktail book. I would probably go a little less on the Malibu rum. I think it's a little coconut heavy. Maybe add some white rum, a little, like maybe a half an ounce of white rum, 1/4 ounce of dark rum, and then a half an ounce of the Malibu. So it's a little more balanced. But
good Lord, Scott.
But that's the kind of drink you could drink like 100 of.
And then, and then be hating yourself tomorrow.
The next day. Yes, sugary drinks are bad. But if you went to a tiki bar and got this, I wouldn't be disappointed.
I would say get me another one.
Yeah. Well, I have to drive you to the airport in an hour or so.
That is really good. Holy cow. That might be up on near the top of our...
You think?
Of our drink. I mean, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Oranges from our neighbor's tree.
That could be it too.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of blue curacao drinks because you know what? I'd been putting off buying it, and then I finally bought it, and I'm like, what do we got to put blue curacao in?
It's like one of those things we got to use up the leftovers.
Yeah, and that's one I'm going to put in one of my decanters because you don't even have to label it. You pretty much know what it is, nothing else. Same with my Midori. Figure those can go into decanters. It's Romulan ale. The Virtuous Humor. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's really good.
Right.
We could just talk about this for a half an hour and I would be perfectly happy. But where were we?
Virtuous humor, about using humor. Yeah. So you're a stand-up comic, you're making your way in LA, and then as you step back in and start doing veterinary work as well, you thought, is there something that people could learn about how to use humor in a veterinary practice? So my first question to you, before we talk about the how, is the why. Why would somebody who maybe doesn't find clinical practice particularly funny, or someone who's just not funny in general, why would incorporating humor into their daily lives, what is the benefit of it to them and to their patients?
Yeah. That's a great question. It's funny. I didn't let the two sides of my life interact all that much. Like on stage, I didn't talk about being a vet very much. A little bit, but not very much. And I certainly didn't try to crack a lot of jokes when I was in the exam room.
Sure.
But, one of my receptionists, she sits outside of the rooms, kind of in this sort of no man's land in between. She would sit out there. And she said, oh, by the way, I hear everything that you say and that they say after you leave. I'm like, that is gold, by the way. If you happen to have somebody that can tell you what people are saying when you leave the room,
yeah,
gold. But she said, yeah, people do laugh a lot more when you're in the room. And people ask for you by name all the time. They want to be with you. And so I started looking into what kind of research there'd been on the use of humor in veterinary medicine. Turns out almost none. But on the human side, they've actually looked into this quite a bit. And when humor is used, the patients I got to keep remembering that it's patients there, and our patients don't talk to us. So, um, but in human medicine, the patients, when humor was used, showed that they had a closer connection and were more likely to follow instructions, and adherence was better, and they just had a better overall experience with their physician. And that sure seemed to be the case in my experience as well.
So it bonds
Kind of then
clients to you,
bonds
helps
clients.
you bond with the clients and form a stronger connection.
Yeah, which then of course makes them more likely to accept your recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
So that will then improve, patient outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what about you? Like, do you find when you can actually laugh with your clients that it helps you in any way as well?
I think for me it does, and I think that if I think about the days where, things seem to be flowing well. We've all had those days, right? Like the great day, you're like, man, everything's going great. It may have been a hard day, but you rose to everything, every, challenge that came at you. Those are days when you probably will have more laughter in the day, right? Because things feel better. But, the other way is true too, right? Like if you're laughing more, things will feel better as well. When we laugh, we release oxytocin.
Right.
We feel better.
Yeah.
When we laugh, our cortisol levels go down.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
and I
If
would say I've had that experience where you're having just the most rough day ever.
uh,
Right.
uh,
And at some point there's nothing that's really funny about it. And yet
right.
you have that where
Yeah.
you just so desperately need to laugh.
Yeah.
But even if it's just laughing at the absurdity of how awful your day is,
Yeah.
and especially if you share that with coworkers or,
Right.
suddenly you're like, okay, I feel a little bit better. This doesn't seem as
Right.
suffocating anymore and negative, because I
Yeah.
can laugh at myself.
For sure. And if you think about that too, then how does that make you feel about your life and your job in general?
Yeah.
I mean, so we're not just talking about, patient outcomes are going to be improved because you're going to have better, adherence and a better connection with your clients. Your clients are going to like you better. You might actually just be happier
Yeah.
if you're laughing more.
Yeah. And when you say adherence, you mean adherence to your medical
Compliance.
recommendation, compliance or
Correct.
adherence.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
exactly right. Yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So there's actual this is this is the part too in my talks, like how do you do 4 hours of talks on humor in the exam room? Like, oh, I get nerdy, guys. We're going to talk about cortisol levels. We're going to talk about everything. So I mean but to me that's the joy of this for me, is because I get to marry those two parts of my life. Do you know what I mean, Scott? Like, it's like I I love to tell jokes. I love to laugh. I love puns, but I also love science. I love it so much.
Well, this is why, we talked about this in one of our other episodes as well, which is we both have these lives that are very unique and different and separate from veterinary medicine.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about what we can do to expand just beyond the podcast, right, to the brand and how we can reach out to other people, it was important to both of us to give back. And so then you start thinking, what am I an expert in? What do I have or do I know better than anyone else? So for me, it was time management. For you, it was virtuous humor. You're a stand-up comedian on the side. So it's like, how can you take those skills and some of that knowledge and bring it over to your other world?
Well, let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, I'll talk about like how does humor in the veterinary setting really look.
Sounds good.
Hi, this is Dr. Mike, the Bowtie Vet Guy. Thanks for tuning in to the Vets Unleashed. If you want to find out more about us or our guests, or to leave an amazing review, head on over to thevetsunleashed.com or find us on Instagram or Facebook at The Vets Unleashed. There you'll find information on the podcast, how to be a guest, and our lecture series and speaking availability. Now let's get back to the show.
So we are back talking about virtuous humor and using humor within a veterinary clinic, and this is Dr. Mike's passion. So, so where do we go from here? People are interested. They're like, yeah, maybe I could incorporate some more humor into my practice.
I mean, I started looking at this because there's no real research done on this on the veterinary side. I've extrapolated everything from the human side. And I love the idea of virtuous humor, right? Like, and I didn't think of that. I did not coin that. That came from a AMA article from 2020, Rodden and Proyer, I believe it was.
Yes.
Yeah. And as you, right. So that's the nerdy part once again, because I don't have notes here. I'm doing this. This is all in my brain, the stupid stuff that sticks in there. Anyway. So that came from an article, I think it was 2020. And, they talked about the use of humor in a medical setting as being virtuous humor. Didn't really define what that is, but the idea was that it's humor that's used to bring people together, right? So we're not talking about roasting people. We're not at a comedy club. We're trying to use humor to be inclusive. And so I came up with three things that Exactly. And so I came up with three things that I think humor has to have to be virtuous. So I call them Dr. Mike's.
So this is a Mikeism. This is not extrapolated. This is
me.
What humor needs to be virtuous.
To be virtuous, humor has to have all three of these things. It must be kind, it must be authentic, and it must be professional. So what do those mean? I mean, what does kind mean? I mean, we just said, right? We're not at a roast. We're not there to, tell our patient or
no jokes about your client's mother.
They come to us for help, right? They're not there for us to tell them how stupid they are. There have been studies on the use of kindness too, right? Like, so how does being kind to people affect how, their happiness going forward and how kind they are to other people? And so if you're using humor to tear somebody down, it's never going to create a connection.
So before we go to the next three, then kindness, I would say, if you're incorporating humor into the exam room and it's kind, it's probably not going to be personal, or it's going to be lighthearted and medically appropriate in the situation. Right? Exactly. What does that look like? Like what would a joke look like that's kind?
A kind joke might be something like a pun that is a dad joke. You know what I mean? Something that breaks that tension, just relaxes people but doesn't have anything attached to anybody else. Let me give you an example. A guy came in last week and everything seemed fine. It was just a yearly checkup and a little Boston Terrier. And I'm going to preface this by saying that I work in Southern California, and the guy was wearing flip-flops, and flip-flops are considered formal wear in Southern California. So it was totally fine. And I thought everything was going great. We were chatting. Everything seemed good. And then I looked at his feet and I noticed he was like scrunching up his feet like they were in knots. He was doing, he was gripping on.
I have no idea where this story is going. Like, I can't even, if you ask me to anticipate how this ends, I would be like, I have no effing idea. Okay. So he's scrunching his toes together in his flip-flops.
And then when I looked at him a little bit more, I realized, he's not relaxed at all. He's super nervous, right? And super uncomfortable. And so at that time, as I'm on the floor with the dog jumps up, licks my face, right? He's like, sorry about that. I'm like, don't worry about it, man. Everybody knows that Bostons can't hold their liquor. But terrible joke, right? Yeah. But he laughed. But he laughed. He was like, oh my God. And I saw his feet like relax. Like, it was the weirdest thing.
We wear a lot of flip-flops up here in NorCal too. So
yeah, you hella do.
I will start to watch toes as an indicator of relaxation.
I never thought of it. I just happened to be right there. And it was like his toes were white. But here's the thing that happened after that. Like, after I told that terrible joke that you can all use now.
And that's not unkind. Unless perhaps he told you in 5 minutes prior that he had a drinking problem. then maybe you don't
Right.
make a joke about his dog can't hold his liquor either.
Correct.
That would not be
Right.
kind. Okay.
Exactly.
I see where we're going.
Yeah.
All right. So we got kind. Then the second was authentic?
Authentic.
All right. So was that joke authentic, and why?
Yeah. So authentic means if you don't think it's funny, if you aren't going to laugh at it, other people probably won't laugh either.
Okay.
The joke has to be true to you. And here's where you have to be a little careful. For me, it's not as big a deal because I love puns, and that was a terrible joke. I will always tell a pun whenever I can to just try to get a quick chuckle out of somebody. But let's say your humor is a little on the darker side of humor, gallows humor. We have a technician that will always find like the darkest thing to say.
A nihilistic slant.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It just makes you go like, ooh, maybe tone that down a little bit. So that would be authentic, but it wouldn't necessarily be kind to say, don't buy a big bag of dog food.
Right.
Right. That's the kind of thing. So you could have one that's authentic, but not kind. So in that case, maybe adjust your scale a little bit more. So you're going to move that slider up on the kindness and down on the authentic on that one.
So kindness, authenticity, and what was the third Mikeism?
Professional.
Professional. Yes.
Yeah. And I went back and forth on what that third one should be. Like, could you have one that is, kind and authentic, but not professional? Absolutely, you could. I think you could have that or any combination thereof. And so professional just means that it's appropriate for where you are in the clinical setting. And that might be different. That might be different for an exam room and the treatment room. It might be different. If you don't have any clients around, it might be okay to tell a joke like, say that dog was licking my face again, I might say, oh, well, I guess we both have Giardia now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, so in the treatment room, like it's pretty unlikely that I'm going to get Giardia from a dog licking my face. It could happen, but it's pretty unlikely. Whereas a client doesn't have that, what we call, it's an intellectual distance from the joke. Right. So they might go like, oh my God, could I really get that?
Mm-hmm.
Could that happen? And then they get scared and it does the exact opposite of what you want.
Right. When in fact, that's not the end to be kissing if you're going to get Giardia, probably.
That's not. No, you would have to kiss the other end.
Yeah. Well, the cysts stick in the hair coat, so eventually they could work their way up there.
They could be. Well, and
I see
they lick
what you're
their
saying.
butts. Yeah.
Well, here's another question that I know we heard a couple times from the audience that was listening to your morning lectures, which is, I don't think I'm particularly funny, and so humor is not my go-to. But I understand that this could improve outcomes. It could improve my happiness in the job. It's another tool that might actually help me bond with my clients more and get better outcomes for my patients. How do I start? Like not everyone is going to be ready to do a 6-week or an 8-week comedy workshop and stand up in front of hundreds of people and deliver stand-up. So how do you start if you don't think of yourself as a funny person?
You either got it or you don't, right? You can't learn to be funny. And that sounds like the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, why can you not? You can learn any other skill.
Yeah.
Right? You can learn to be an actor. You can take acting classes. Nobody thinks that's weird. That of course you can learn to be funny.
It may not come as naturally as if it's developed as a coping mechanism over 50 years of life.
With my, with my divorce,
was that
and
not kind?
With my divorce and my parents' divorce, and yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah. So, first of all, I would say that absolutely anybody can learn to be funny. If you feel like you're not funny, or people have told you outright you're not funny, maybe start with something that is simple and easy. And probably the easiest thing to do is put up funny signs. If you think, there's some little quip that you could put up in the exam room, like, what was one I saw once? Somebody put up one of those eye charts, like that you sometimes see in doctors' offices, like read the top line, but it just said woof, 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 woof. I'm like, that's kind of funny. It's stupid. But when people come into the room, they see that, they laugh, they're already in that mode of wanting to laugh a little bit. So you could start with something very simple like
I've
that.
also seen one with just dog butts. There's like a little corgi butt and tail.
Yeah.
And then it says hindsight visual test.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm going to get one of those. Although I would probably take it to the next step and be like, could you just read that? And then just pretend like I'm talking to the dog. People would be like, this guy's weird.
Yeah.
So that's one.
You've also seen the picture of the guy with the the body condition scoring, and he's pointing to the obese cat, and then the cat is looking at what he's pointing at. It does lighten the, having something like that where people laugh and then you say, but in all seriousness,
yeah, let's talk
your
about
cat is a 9, so we do need to talk about this.
Yeah,
right.
But your cat is fat. Yeah,
your cat is fat, but not your mom, because that would be not kind.
That would be not kind. Yeah, and it could be not kind to talk about,
or professional.
It could be not kind or professional to talk about an animal's weight.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like. There are plenty of times, I've said, I usually will say something like, yeah, there's a little more cat here than there should be, and then I will talk through the specifics of what I'm looking at and explain that. But I wouldn't say like, I noticed there were 3 other cats orbiting your cat when you came in. That's not particularly kind.
I told your cat to haul ass and he had to make 3 trips. Yeah, not kind.
Not kind. No, it's fine for a podcast.
Yes.
But that's the thing, too.
Yeah, in full disclosure, I do not say those things in exam rooms. That's not why I left practice a few years ago.
But this is the thing, too. Like, knowing that jokes might be appropriate in one situation, but not the other. And that might change throughout the clinic, depending on where you are. So I do think that, starting with something simple like signs, you could do... if you wanted to take a class, I would actually recommend an improv class over maybe a straight stand-up class, because improv teaches you to connect with people. It teaches you to say yes to other people and what they're saying, and listen to what they're saying and respond to what they are saying. The improv classes I've taken, it's kind of a classic thing where stand-up comedians and improv, neither one can understand how the other one does that. They're like, you mean you're up there with no other people and you just say stuff? And they're like, you mean you don't come in with it written out 3 weeks in advance and tried 7 times? Yeah, it's very different skill set. But taking an improv class might be a really helpful thing to do.
I can see that, because then you're feeding off, and the joke, if a joke, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a joke, right? It could just be humor or a humorous statement. If that stems from something a client said, it's putting that in their space, meeting them halfway, sort of, which feels very genuine and caring versus,
that's a great way that's a great way to put that. That too, that a lot of times sometimes I'll say jokes. I've got my go-to, your dog can't hold its liquor, things like that. If it hurt, its toenail got torn, well, we better call a tow truck. Those sort of stupid jokes like that.
Right.
And everybody has those go-to things, which is another thing that I would recommend if you're not comfortable with comedy. Pick a couple of jokes that you're going to say like that and just try them out. See what happens.
Right.
And if it doesn't work,
those cornball statements, that's very authentic to you. You love dad jokes. So, that's part of your personality. So I think it truly, if there was a client that was offended by something like that, doesn't mean you wouldn't not do it if they continue to see you, but it's sort of maybe you're not the best vet for them then, if they're not lighthearted enough to accept that you are sort of lighthearted and kind of a goofball, in addition to being a competent and exceptional veterinarian.
Well, that brings that kind of to that last thing, and again, we're only a half hour into this, and I've got 4 hours that I can talk about how to be funny, talking about theories of comedy. I have one that's like real world examples where we go in and we dissect some some jokes that I've told or some humorous statements I've told in the exam room and why they might be appropriate in one place and not in another. And that was a lot of fun. That lecture was a lot of fun, where everybody just had their jokes that they wanted to tell and wanted to talk about why it might or might not be appropriate. But that last part is what happens when you mess up, right? What happens when you tell a joke and not only does it fall flat, but people are offended. People are upset
or
about it.
Or it doesn't work. Yeah.
Exactly. And to me, this has been a hard thing to learn because, part of my personality is being funny. And just as you say, I might take that really, really personally.
Well, I'd say trying to be funny, but I'm
trying to be funny. That's okay. Yes. And, but the thing to do with that is to just hit it head on and apologize right away, see if you can make it right, and then follow through on what you said. So I've told jokes that people are like, "Oh my God, what did you mean by that?" And I say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I did not mean to be flippant about that. I didn't mean to. I was trying to tell a joke, and I can see that upset you, right? I'll try to be a little more cognizant of that in the future." And then you move on. If they open it up to jokes again, then go through, let them lead. Yeah, well, let them lead. I would say, tiptoe into that.
These are, I will say, your talks were I've seen the 1 hour talk, race approved talk, and I've seen the 4 hour business management module on virtuous humor. And by the end of that 4 hour talk, first of all, something that you rarely see in business management lecture series, almost everyone that came to your talk stayed. And it seemed like each audience got bigger as the day went on. It's the perfect ending for, in my humble opinion, for, if you've got a all weekend conference and Sunday, you're tired of learning about Cushing's disease and renal disease, and you're ready to do something a little more lighthearted, but still helpful. People by that fourth hour, when people were telling the jokes, some of which were not appropriate, but we talked about why, like, here's why you probably wouldn't even say that in the back office. People were having fun. And they left with something that, this is something I'm going to try. So it was, it's a good time learning something different that you just don't see every day in veterinary conferences.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can find me at thevetsunleashed.com, The Vets Unleashed on Instagram, Bowtie Vet Guy on Instagram. That's where I'm found. And we'll talk about humor. I will talk about it for hours.
Yes, and if you want to hear him speak or you'd like to have him come to speak, on our website, request an estimate for getting Dr. Mike to speak to your VMA group or to your veterinary conference.
Well, with that, let's toast to. We need a name. Virtuous Humor is good. I love this name. If anybody else has a better name, I would say we're open to hearing it. But let's toast to Virtuous Humor.
Well, I don't have any left, but cheers. I'll eat my orange.
Oh my gosh. This is a good drink, Scott. Thanks for joining us for drinks and a conversation about veterinary medicine and our beloved animals. The Vets Unleashed podcast is wholly owned by the Vets Unleashed LLC with excellent production by Earweevil Audio. For more information about us, head over to thevetsunleashed.com. And as always, don't take advice from people who've been drinking.